President Obama is set to ask Congress for the formal authority to wage war on ISIL. Some in Congress have been cautious about this move in the light of the extended conflict in Iraq. Up to this point, many have been hesitant to get more involved and potentially put boots on the ground against the terrorist group. The White House launched a bombing campaign against ISIL targets in Iraq and in Syria 6 months ago. And for more on this story, we're joined by Edwin Smith via Skype from Los Angeles. He is an international law professor at the University of Southern California. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be with you.
Today we also heard from the United States confirming that Kayla Mueller had died. ISIL said that she was killed last week. What took so long for the U.S. government to confirm her death?
Well, it is unpredictable how ISIS handles captives. The tale of the Jordanian pilot is an instructive one. Evidently, he had been killed a month ago, but they were still negotiating for money in exchange for him. They tried to negotiate the exchange of the female prisoner that Jordan was holding, so that there was no indication that ISIS was telling the truth with regard to Kayla.
Kayla's case hasn't really received the same publicity as some of the other ISIL hostages. Why do you think her case has been kept relatively quiet until the end?
Well, I think it was because they thought there were possibilities of her release. She was evidently held captive with two other female hostages who were released, so that it is not the case that there was a possibility that she could have been released, and they wanted to keep things quiet while efforts were made.
Edwin, we've also been hearing about how ISIL has contacted family members of their hostages directly. We heard it about this case with Kayla. It seems pretty unnerving that this group has all the personal information about these hostages and the relatives, that they were able to make contact with them without anyone else.
Well, there is, if you look at a passport, there is enough information on a passport to at least begin the contact process. Certainly, if ISIL is committed to negotiating for a monetary exchange, for ransom for hostages, which they've been successful at in some situations, they have motivation to contact families because they might be able to negotiate ransom.
According to this letter that Kayla sent to her family that's been released today, she was taken care of, fed, not treated too badly. What does that say about how ISIL treats its prisoners, or at least maybe its female prisoners?
I think they make a substantial differentiation. Her tale indicates that at least if she were speaking without pressure, that they treated female hostages differently. My concern about Kayla's story is that if they were treating female hostages in a more protective way, why was she located in a place where the Jordanians would attack an ammunition dump? It's unlikely that they would have. One of my reasons for skepticism is unlikely that ISIS would have kept her in an obvious military target.
Right, right. And considering what we've been seeing in the last few days, how do you think the U.S.-led coalition should respond? We've seen what Jordan has been doing following what happened, with their pilot. What do you think the United States and its allies will do now?
I think they will continue to ratchet up the kinds of pressure in terms of aerial campaign. I still do not think that there's any credible possibility for boots on the ground. But the air campaign, I think, can be effective. Certainly, it can degrade the communications capabilities, the coordination capabilities, the resupply capabilities that might be enjoyed by ISIL to the extent that they can be disrupted. We should conduct really intense bombing campaigns.
All right, Edwin Smith, live from Los Angeles. Thank you so much for joining us.